Welcome to my new video series where I will be interviewing various psychics about their psychic abilities and how they work for them. It is my hope that this information will help you to further develop your own psychic abilities by better understanding how your own work. Now, keep in mind that each person's psychic abilities work slightly differently. So don't expect that what you hear in this video will be exactly like how your psychic abilities work. Just take the relevant information that does relate to you and use that to further develop your own psychic abilities. With that being said, let's get into this interview. Hello. So today I am interviewing Susan Greenspan. She has been a certified naturopath since 1995. She is also an integrative health practitioner, herbalist, and also clairvoyant. One of the things that I love about her is that her focus is on integrating body and soul into a holistic healing approach. More recently, Susan has developed her intuitive abilities, specifically clairvoyance, which she now incorporates into her practice. So thank you so much for joining me today, Susan.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a delight to be with you today.
I'm so excited. This is going to be so
Me
much
too.
fun. So tell me more about you. And this is kind of like a twofold question. Firstly, like how you got into, the holistic healing arts, and then kind of how that eventually led you to incorporating your clairvoyance or intuitive abilities into all of that.
You know, the unfolding of life is really something. So as a little child, I used to my one of my favorite hobbies was lying on the grass and taking the leaves of the plantain and dividing them and then eating them. And the dandelion was my favorite. I took each and every part of that dandelion and tasted and smelled and I ate the leaves a lot. And I remember lying on the grass and my mom catching me doing this and saying, Susie, don't do that. You know, it's poison, because she had no idea. And in the meantime, I had chronic urinary tract infections, and the dandelion was my cure. And the plantain, which is an all heal to go with the dandelion, was superb. I think it would have been a lot worse if I didn't eat those few leaves. And if I would have eaten more, I probably would have healed myself.
Wow. That's amazing
So
that you
the
knew that
naturopathy
intuitively.
part, yeah, it was really instinctual, I believe. And then after later, when I had my children and they started coming down with a whole bunch of childhood stuff, and I would go to the doctor, and the medications just seemed to prolong everything. And after a couple of years, I fired the doctors and I decided to totally raise my children in what I believed. I'd go to them if there was anything extreme, of course. But I managed on with my herbal remedies, just taking care of them. And it was so, again, instinctual, where I would go into they'd have a stomach flu or something, and I'd look everywhere and say, what do I have? And then I'd open up the kitchen cupboards, which is usually where I would find the remedies. And I smelled the basil and I went, oh my God, this is it. And I made a tea, and it just cleaned the entire digestive system. It sterilized it and ended stomach bugs.
Wow. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that how
And,
connected you were.
you know, then it goes into the intuitive part because, anyways, I had my children and I wanted to do something for work that was as meaningful as raising my children and as fulfilling. So I started my courses in naturopathy. I started with reflexology and psychospirituality and stuff like that. I studied Kabbalah at the same time as studying shamanism. So I was studying the ancient belief systems, healing arts, etc., etc. And as that developed, my kids were moving out, so I moved into my practice. And it was basically built on naturopathy, but energetic therapies, a lot of that. And a lot of messages were coming through. I'd have a client and I'd be talking to them and I'd say, "Who's that old lady sitting in the green chair?" And they said, "Oh, my grandmother's here." And we'd have a talk with grandma, as simple as that.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that.
Yeah. And then I realized that even as a child, I was intuitive. I remember thinking, what would happen if we had to buy water one day? And here we are today. I was wondering, why will people be able to talk on the telephone when they're on the bus? How would all those wires work? It's like I was seeing things, but I wasn't connecting that this was intuitive thoughts coming into me or messages coming into me. I thought they were just ridiculous thoughts.
Hmm. Hmm.
Thank God COVID hit. I'm sorry, but for all those who suffered, bless them, bless them, bless them. But there's always two sides of a story, the negative and the positive. And my positive is the wellness center closed. I was leaving a job in the health food store industry, and I wasn't sure if I should make the move. I moved away from where I was living into another completely different zone. And I went, okay, should I really be doing all this? And I called a friend of mine who was doing the readings, and she gave me a reading, and I just loved the format. So I took the courses for the format so that I could do clairvoyant readings separately and fulfill all the needs instead of just saying, "Who's that lady in the corner?" or "Who's that gentleman with the nice hat on?" Um, and that's basically how the unfolding happened. So I'm realizing now that I'm in my 60s that this was happening all along.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, from the very beginning. I mean, and I think that's often the way it works too, is that these things are so subtle and so natural and ingrained in who we are that we just think that, well, we don't even think that it's a thing, we just think it's part of who we are. And so we find ourselves just naturally doing these things and having this as a part of our nature. So you like knowing what herbs intuitively and connecting to that information and smelling and feeling and experiencing those things are just a natural extension of who we are. And I love that so, so much. That is so amazing. And in fact, I actually do something similar too. I was working with a naturopath myself through some health problems that I was having, and she was giving me a lot of, good ideas for, herbs and remedies and things like that. But I found that I had the most success with just doing what was intuitively like correct for me, And so I had like all my supplements out, and each day I'd be like, this is the one I need to take, or this is what I need to take. And then those things would make me feel better a lot faster than just kind of taking everything.
Yeah, and I love that. And thank you. You made two beautiful points. Is number one, you intuitively pick. No one should be on one or two or three supplements forever or for a long period of time, because today your body is off balance and needs, I don't know, more magnesium. Well, tomorrow you might not need that magnesium, but you might need more D. You have to really tune in. The other point is so important, and I'm so glad you said that, how we intuitively work with it. However, our upbringings and our society have shut us down.
Yeah.
And if anything I could do for my clients is help them to see that they have the exact same, if not more, or maybe a little different, the abilities. Everybody has intuitive abilities, but we call it crazy. We dismiss it. And now if anybody says to me, "Are you crazy?" I smile and go, "Yes, thank you." Because I don't want to be the norm anymore who's shutting all that information down and being the type of person that just lets it flow, and to trust yourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I agree too, and this is what I share in my videos, on YouTube, is that we all have these things, and these are because we are energetic beings, we're also physical beings, but we are energetic beings, right? As an extension of being an energetic being, we have energetic senses, right? And these are our energetic senses that we use while we're also in this physical form. So we all have these, and we can use them to whatever levels that we kind of come in with, but we can also develop them further. So, a lot of people think, well, I just don't have those. But like we've said before already, it's just that you may not even realize that you're using them. And this is most often the case, is that, like, for me, I had no idea. I just, like, when I was a kid, I wanted to be psychic so bad, and me and my bestie would sit on the jungle gym and, like, try to read each other's minds and do all this stuff. So I was like, I really wanted to do this, but I had no idea that I had these capabilities. And the only thing that I knew was that I was a sensitive child, and I was overwhelmed with things all the time. And, like, that was it. And then later, I spent all this time, like, developing it, only to realize that I was already doing these things, like you were already doing these things. You just kind of need that confirmation and validation that what you were already doing is that.
Exactly. Exactly. It's right on.
So tell me more about, like, you have an approach where you really, and I don't know if this is more towards your the naturopath side of things, or the whole integrative medicine, or the clairvoyant side, but you talk about how you approach things body and soul. And I watched a little bit of your other video where you were talking about the Kabbalah, and I can't remember the other thing that you were referring to, maybe energetic medicine, and but just really approaching from that body and soul perspective. Can you tell me more about that approach?
Yeah, well, when you talk about we're energetic beings in a physical body, it's the energy that holds the physical particles together that make us whole, and that we collect to form the picture that we call our lives. That's when people say, is that it's your responsibility that you're not well. Yeah, that's how come you form the particles together. Now it's the soul that's writing the whole physicality. That's the energy that's coming in to hold everything together. So when there is an imbalance or when there is a gift, it is the soul expressing itself.
Mhm.
Most of the time, for emotional imbalances, I find it's often when the body and the soul are not communicating.
Mm.
And it's not showing up in the physical, but it's coming out in the emotional.
I love that. That makes so much sense too, because I've had, like, ongoing health problems for so many years, but I also went through, like, so much, like, mental, emotional, like, psychological trauma for many years. And I think, like, after all of that, then I got, like, all these health problems that were just manifesting because I was holding on to all these things in my energetic field, in my soul. And I realized I had to start letting go of all these things. And interestingly, the past 2 nights, I've had dreams where I've been working through the trauma of, like, each, like, partner and boyfriend and all the different things, to the point where I'm like, I love you so much and you're so wonderful. And I'm like, okay, great. This is great that I'm working through it in my dreams. You know?
That's what in your dream world it's excellent because you're stepping out of the way.
Yeah.
You're doing it when your consciousness is or your ego is stepping out of the way and you're letting it happen Also, we're under the influence of the most beautiful, powerful moon that we're going to experience all year. So
Oh,
you're, again, automatically going into that healing
yeah.
and healing all the charges that need to go on,
I love
that need
that.
to be released. Sorry.
So,
Yeah.
which moon is it that we're going through right now? Can you tell me about that?
We are going through the full buck moon. That's when the
Oh,
bucks grow their antlers. They're also known as a strawberry moon. It has many names, but it's a moon that is closest to Earth during the whole year. So, of course, it's going to pull on our waters. And
yeah.
our waters are very much our emotional well-being. Our emotional bodies are the waters. So that moon, that grandmother energy that's so comforting and so bright and so beautiful, is asking us to feel comfortable enough to heal any emotional charges. Now, when the emotional charges are in our bodies and they are not being addressed, after a while, they crystallize into physical form and form physical illnesses as well. It's really interesting. I was watching on Netflix an interview about changing the mind, and the first two episodes I watched about LSD and psychedelic mushrooms, and people were talking about they're really sick and they go in and they release a childhood memory and they go, oh my god, all these things happen after that because I was holding those charges.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's really amazing how it will affect
Yeah, I love
and
that.
linger on.
I love that. I've studied that a little bit too. And I love how I've actually had friends that have used that as well for like trauma and PTSD. And they said that it just shifts them out of that mental state of who they were and starts looking at like reality from a completely different perspective. So it's like they're a different person. And then they can look at like the trauma or the person that they have the PTSD with and kind of let go of that attachment or that story. And so I just love how like, the society now is starting to use these tools, these medicines to help those who have the trauma and the PTSD to like let go of those things now. I love that. We really need to move back into that kind of earth medicine and that type of healing.
We are, and there's so many signs of the shift happening. Our medical systems are falling, and I'm kind of sitting there going, okay, this is hard, but this is good.
Yeah.
And then other industries are falling, and I'm going, okay, this is hard, but this is good.
Yeah.
And then I saw the images of the telescope and I went, well, if that's not a sign that we're reaching a different level of consciousness, tell me what is. I mean, it's so apparent, and it's a hard time. A lot of people who are not in touch with their spirit self and the spirit self of all that is, and the feeling connected, especially younger people, are having such a tremendously hard time because the energies are so
Hmm.
intense. And with that intensity, we are seeing a lot of so called darkness. But that darkness has always been there, and it's a very big cleansing on humanity right now. With that, I ask anybody who holds any spark of joy and light within them to blow it up.
Mm.
And I find that there are people who are living really good lives right now and have a little bit of guilt because there's so many people going through such a hard time. Flush your guilt, please,
Yeah.
because we really need you to feel fabulous. We need this fabulous energy going into the planet and the cosmos right now so that we could lift as a group, all those who are sinking.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and raise the whole frequency, help because,
Yeah.
those that have that lower frequency right now in that lower state, they need that energy to help uplift them, as well as just the whole of the planet and the cosmos. Like bring up all that energy so that we're vibrating at that higher frequency together. So yeah, I like that.
And as we were talking about now being able to return a little bit of universities dealing with mushrooms and doctors dealing with mushrooms, we're going to the essence of Earth.
Mm,
And the essence of Earth Mother is showing us that the beauty lies here,
mm,
that this life is such a phenomenal gift.
yeah.
And any of our illnesses, whether they be physical or emotional, or any of our tragedies in life, are really to feed our souls.
Mm,
So they're gifts.
yeah. Yeah.
And we have to find those gifts, we have to find those answers.
Yeah. No, I love that. And that makes so much sense too, because there's so many people I find, and I've done this myself too, where you resist the illness or the disease or the whatever the thing and, think that that's a bad thing, but really that thing is trying to teach you something. It's trying to reintegrate part of your soul and trying to heal you through that experience. And so instead of like, resisting it, to embrace it and to love it and to hold it within you that this is okay. And, it's going to pass if it needs to pass, or it may stay and be a part of you, but it's still going to heal an essential part of who you are. And so that's what I've been trying to do through my health things too, is to not resist that and to just know that this is my healing process.
May I go into a semi reading right now for
Yeah,
you?
sure.
Okay, because it's just coming up as we're
Mhm,
talking.
mhm.
And you mentioned a couple of times is that you've had battle with health
Yeah.
issues a lot of times. And I keep seeing this image or getting a very strong feeling of it too. So I don't want to hold
Yeah,
on
no
to it.
worries, please.
I'll forget it in a little while. Is that when you were being birthed, when you were in the womb, and you were having trouble as a spirit to enter that body. And so during your birth, it's almost like the body came out and the soul was trackling behind it. It's what you were not in body yet.
Yeah.
And so even as your mom held you, even as you were eating and drinking and everything like that, you weren't totally anchored in.
Mhm. I love that, yeah.
And so little things happen. But with all the work that you've been doing, your soul tailbone is now attached to your physical tailbone.
Yay. I'm really glad
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
resonate
you're
with what you're
coming in.
saying. I resonate so much because I've always felt that way. I was also born premature and I was in an incubator. I was born 4 pounds, 11 and 3/4 ounces.
Oh,
And so my first experience in the world was feeling isolated. Right. And so I've always just felt like it was such like a hard thing to connect with others and feel like fully like integrated in this world. And then I'd go to healers and they'd be like, you need to ground and and I'm like, I'm doing all the things. I don't know how to ground any further than what I'm grounding like, but they just be like, this is what you need to do. You're not doing it. And it's I guess, like you said, more recently, I've been feeling more like grounded and in myself. And this also kind of leads me to the idea of like, you know, so many of us also like want to go towards those spiritual aspirations, right? And not connect into their physical beingness of who they are and connect into that earth energy, like you were saying. And the point of us being here is like these physical beings is to connect into this physical energy and have this physical experience as these spiritual beings. And so I'm glad that you're saying that I'm finally like there, that I'm connecting. So, as a leading into this, do you sense or feel that these ailments that I've been experiencing are working through themselves, and like that I'm successfully kind of
Yeah,
figuring that
you're
out?
almost there. Your soul spine to your physical spine is almost
Mhm,
together.
mhm,
So because there's such a little distance between the two, it's almost vibrating to make a sound.
hmm.
And that vibration, that sound, this is interesting because I haven't seen this before. So thank you. This sound is affecting the harmonics
Interesting.
with certain organs, and then that ripples off that there's something going on with your limbs, your arms, maybe.
And
Uh,
actually it was in a motorcycle accident when I was 19. I lost my right leg, so I'm a right leg amputee. And so there you go, limbs. And yeah, my knee, a hip replacement, tremors in my hands, so just a lot of
okay.
different, yeah.
The tremors in your hands are more of that spine thing.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can feel like that internal vibration actually, like when I
Mhm.
just kind of lay there, I feel like that buzz kind of.
You're mastering it.
Okay.
You're almost there.
Do you have any recommendations of things that I can do to continue this process?
Absolutely. The first thing is please go outside and walk barefooted
Mhm.
as much as you can. For the average person, for thyroid health, for grounding, I say 15 minutes a
Mhm.
day, especially at the end of the day, to just, or even at the beginning of the day, and start your day grounded and well connected. Um, Other things, I'd have to really think about it,
Mhm.
or feel into it more, as you as an individual. Um, but yeah, if you have anyone to do cranial sacral therapy for
Okay.
you or polarity therapy, that would be wonderful. I could do long distance if you'd
Oh, very
like,
cool. Okay.
to just calm the soul and tell it it's okay. And it's kind of like being the matchmaker and unifying
Between me and myself.
other than that, in supplements, I'd have to look at your entire diet or health regime, let's say, and then maybe tweak it.
Yeah, well, I'd love to find out more about this. Maybe we can do a session outside of this.
Sure, I'd love that. I'd love that. I know definitely you should be on really good oils,
Okay.
and that's in your diet.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, I need to add that. I
Yeah,
need to incorporate that. Although I have a hard time digesting oils. So,
that's
yeah.
right. Your gallbladder is a little
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
But there are some oils that could help, and there's things that could aid the gallbladder so that you can process those oils. And I'm not talking about vegetable oil or
Right.
anything saturated
Yeah.
or heavy things. I'm talking about something very light.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
look forward to going more deeply in that. Thank you. Well,
me
tell me
too.
more about like how you approach a reading and like what are you what am I trying to ask here? There's so many questions that want to come out at the same time. Yeah, tell me more about how you approach doing a reading for someone.
Okay, so when someone requests a reading, the first thing I do right away is ground really well. There's so many times that I'm doing a reading and I'm seeing myself and I'm going, wait a minute, who is that? So you really have to make sure that you're seeing a picture. And I do set up a visual screen in my mind's
Mhm.
eye that I'm reading from. And basically, I read the lifeline to show me where traumas might have existed, whether they were karmic issues involved, what boundary issues were put up, is there communication issues, is a person on path, what their path is like. If their path is an old path that's coming to an end, is there a new path formatting already, or do they have to completely let go before one
Mm-hmm.
does?
Mm-hmm.
And then after it, I go into reading all the different layers of the aura and what is in those
Mm-hmm.
layers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where a lot of mediumship comes
Mm-hmm.
in, because you might be holding a charge of a story of
Mm-hmm.
someone. And so they'll come in. Sometimes the person's not even passed, but they come in soul to speak with this person, or this person is really on a soul basis calling them in. And then after, I give a little bit of time for questions. People could ask questions. I give it about an hour and a half for all my sessions, up to from an hour to an hour and a half.
Nice, nice. I love that. And so you're using mostly clairvoyance, it sounds like, and then some mediumship. Are you also using your other clairs, the feeling sense, the knowing? Are they all just kind of coming in together?
Yeah, yeah. The more I allow, the more happens. Sometimes I'm starting to smell
Mm-hmm.
things. Very often during my daily life, I keep seeing shadows of people walking by. So now I'm starting to wave into thin air.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just let it be, let it
Yeah.
happen, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're unfolding. The more I'm trusting, the more I'm unfolding. And I'll tell you something. In the years where I wasn't doing naturopath clairvoyant readings, I was just working as a naturopath, and messages would come, or I'd see things or smell things or hear things. I'd be very quiet about it because I went, I'm not going to say that. I mean, they're going to think I'm nuttier than nuts, you know, or what if that's right? Like so far off that they're going to never come back
Yeah.
again, you know? And then I went, well, big deal.
Mm, mm,
You know, if they're meant to come back, they will come back. If it's often, there's a message that will come that the person says, no,
mm-hmm.
no. So often I'll record the
Oh,
readings.
good.
So then if they listen from a month down the road or a year down the road, they go, oh, yeah, okay, that's what it was. So, yes, all the other senses are coming
Mm-hmm.
in.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, it's just a matter of allowing and often shrugging your shoulders. And like we were talking before the interview, and Spirit gives us a gift, and we go, seriously, what am I supposed to do with that?
Right? You're gonna make me do this? All
Or
right, I guess I'm doing it. I love that. So, how did you start to really trust the information that you were getting through these readings, or did that just kind of develop, throughout your life because you'd already been trusting your intuition from a young age?
I did and I didn't. But I think it was number one, I let go of a mentor that I was too attached to.
Mm,
So, and then after I did that, I said, I don't want any more teachers for a while. Spirit, it's all you. I don't want any more people teaching me. I need a break. There was always someone above me, type
mm,
of thing.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And so I went into that phase and lived life normally, let's say, just nothing specifically happened. And then my older sister started passing. She was very ill, and I was the only one around. The rest of the family is out of town, so I'd be by her side quite often. At the end, it was very dramatic, but I was holding her
mm,
at the same time as she passed. And with that came this realization, and I kept saying it to her over and over and over again during her passing: nothing matters but love.
mm.
That's it. Nothing matters. Our houses, our relationships, our clothing, our fights, our battles, they don't really matter. What matters is how we love through it.
Yeah.
And some people live very dark lives. But what if someone saw the truth of their dark life? What if they saw the service that they were doing? There is yin and there is
Mm-hmm.
yang. Both have to be
Yeah.
expressed. So, what if those who choose the dark path are giving room for us to live the light
Mm-hmm.
path?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. We don't know
Yeah.
anything. It's like we thought, oh, yay, now we know the world's round. Oh, that was really good and a big awakening. Now we know that there's universes upon
Yeah.
universes. What a big
Yeah.
awakening. In all of that, nothing matters but love.
Yeah.
So, why am I waiting for someone else's permission? Why don't I just love?
Mm.
Why don't I just love every blade of grass? Why don't I just love everyone who crosses my path, regardless of who they are or what they're going through? And what if I love myself and I give myself total permission to be that love?
I love that.
No restrictions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when I let go.
That is so powerful, and I think that we can all learn a lot from that because I think we're probably all holding ourselves back, because fear of being accepted or loved, or how are we going to come forward, and look to someone else or whatever, and so we're not like fully shining in our own essence of who we are, and that's like loving ourselves, right? Or just loving our manifestation of who we are, and so I think like you saying this is so powerful because you're right, you're connecting to that noble truth of like love is all there is, and if we can embody that love, then there's so much healing because of that. But I also love how you talk about like both sides of the coin, right? Because when I talk with people that I'm working with and my clients, and they're really held up maybe on like someone that had caused trauma to them, right? And the story of the trauma, and that person was so mean to me or whatever, and I say to them, what if you made this agreement before you came into this physical manifestation for them to play the trauma side of this so that you could get the blessing from that trauma? What if they love you so much that they've decided to play this other side of the coin for you so that you could reap the blessing from that, and that made me think of that.
Bravo. Yeah. Also, with totally loving yourself and loving all that is, it gives you permission to, excuse me, lose your shit
Yes.
sometimes.
Yes. We need that.
We're
We need that.
allowed,
Yeah.
like people think that if you're a naturopath and oh my God, you're a clairvoyant, like, yeah, so are
Right?
you,
Be that nut.
then you're perfect all the time and you never eat that marshmallow that I ate last night just because it was there.
Right?
you know, you're allowed. You're
Yeah.
allowed,
Yeah,
you
and I
know.
think that's what I love about getting older, because there's this stigma about like being an older person where they say like, well, that the older person's kooky or whatever, they're kind of losing their whatever, and you're like, okay, I'm going to use this as an excuse to do that, right? To let go
Yeah,
and to just be myself and to embrace that, and it's so liberating because you could just write it off, well, I'm just that kooky older person, but really I'm just
yeah,
embodying more of who I truly am, and in so doing I'm like freeing like all my karmic patterns and all the healing that I need to do, and I'm also like a role model for everybody else that goes, oh well, you're doing that, so I can do that too, you know
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I love
yeah.
that. I love that. Well, tell me. Oh, go ahead.
I
Go
know
ahead.
that my grandparents who perished in
Oh,
Auschwitz,
wow.
yeah, they're looking at me and they're looking at the way I'm living my life and what I'm feeling, and they are so grateful
Yeah.
that that life led to this life,
Wow.
and I invite them. And a matter of fact, I do have a story. I'm going to rip something off my wall
Please,
here.
please.
Okay, so my grandfather, I don't have it on me, in the concentration camp, somehow, I don't know how he did it. I'd love to do the research to find out. Carved by hand an egg cup in wood and a letter opener. And on it, he put a picture of his friend
Mm.
and wrote a note to his friend's son. So this would be a souvenir. There was a sketching of the camp,
Mm-hmm.
Auschwitz, on one side, and on the other side, with his friend's picture, he wrote on it, "Mon fils, loin des yeux, près des cœurs, far from my eyes and close to my heart." And I was in a store looking at beautiful greeting cards, and on the shelf was this card, and I was just thinking about my grandparents, especially my grandfather. And this was a card. And I went, "Oh my God, mom used to dress me exactly like that. And look at that. That's my favorite orange crush that I used to drink." And I'm reading this letter. Someone's giving me a message. And I open up the card, and there's a map. And on it says, "Loin des yeux, près des cœurs." And tears started coming down my face in the middle of the store. And I ran to the office of people I knew in the store, and I went, "Look at this, my grandfather."
Wow. That's so amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
isn't it? And yeah, we're getting messages like that all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. No. And I that is such a cherished I can't even talk right now. It is such a cherished story to share that, and so moving and so powerful. I really want to thank you first for sharing that. And
You're
I
welcome.
love, like, how powerful that is, and also the message that you're sharing too, which is that we are getting those messages all the time, and that's one of the things that I'm trying
Yes,
to share, with my audience, is that, you know, the universe, God, your guides, whatever you want to call it, is always communicating with you. Whether or not it's your deceased relatives, your guy, you name it. They're all trying to communicate with you all the time and always sharing messages with you. It's just whether or not you're in alignment and you're listening. Are you in that frequency that you're paying attention? And so just know that, like, there's times, when I feel, disconnected and lonely and wishing, that I had that, like, that help or that connection, and just know that they're there with you, like, all the time, and trying to guide you and trying to give you the messages. And if you just, like, look up in that moment, right, and see that the message is already right
right,
there, like, in front of you.
right. Right. Or if you cannot tap in, because a lot of people are living a very
Right.
concrete life, and it's very hard to tap into anything that is natural about life or
Yeah.
themselves. They're living on concrete. They're walking like concrete. They're dressing like concrete. There's no curves and colors to their lives. They're
Mhm.
stuck in it.
Mhm.
So get out, get into nature, try to connect, or connect with someone who could give it to you. And that's why they're not hearing the messages too. It's number one, trust. And number two, it's the environment, and not necessarily the physical
Mhm.
environment, but the whole spiritual environment of
Mhm.
that, of the concrete, of the hardness, of this is a table and
Right.
that's it. No, this is not just a table and this is it. This is my teaching
Right.
area.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even if you go into it scientifically, right? If you look at things scientifically, that down to the core of everything, right, is just energy. So, yeah, I mean, even
Right,
science,
right.
validates that.
Absolutely. And if anybody out there who's listening is in a very concrete area and saying, well, how am I supposed to get to nature or more natural? This is where I live. Put plants, put some Himalayan lights,
Mm,
lamps, and some celandine lamps, and crystals around you. Not too many, because we took too many out of the planet already, but do things like that to just feel nature
yeah,
around you, even in that concrete, and soften. Do anything you can to soften. And even if you can't quieten your mind, because let's face it, that's the most biggest struggle people have. They think that they have to be
right.
zero in here. No, the mind has to work. It's something
Yeah,
that it does. But to
hmm
soften
hmm
it, to
I like
soften
that.
it.
So, what was the most powerful tool for you for developing and maybe even validating your abilities?
Um, For over a decade, I studied with a very talented woman, and it was a lot about energetics and shamanism. At the same time, I connected myself with an Orthodox synagogue who is teaching about Kabbalah. These people were truly into the mysticism of it. And in letting that mysticism out, it used to be a very locked up area and accepting of all kinds of lifestyles. So it was, I used to go to Kabbalah class and go, oh, that's shamanistic, and go to shamanistic classes and go, well, that's Kabbalistic, because all the ancient arts are like that. After that, when I left, I think, and this all has to do with the period of leaving the mentor, my sister passing,
Mhm.
all in a
Mhm.
row. I stood there and I went, okay, who are you and where is your power? And why did you stop it?
Mm.
Why did you stop some of the gifts? And one example, and this is even like I'm feeling it within me as I'm about to say it, is
Mm.
religion. I let go. I don't want to know that word anymore. This is just another political issue, and I'm not getting into it. It's not important. However, there was a place I went, and I could still go as a child and as an adult because of the religion that I was born into. And this religion that I was born into, like all religions, all pathways of spirituality, has gifts. And the gifts is in the perception of how we are connecting through that. And I disqualified it. Why? I had people coming over to me and connecting with them really, really well. And I remember one woman, she really struck me well. And she says, what's your name? And I said, well, Susan Greenspan, nice to meet you. And she says, oh, that's why we're connecting. You're one of my kind. And I'm sitting there going, my kind? What, a woman? What do you,
Which category?
what's a my kind? We're both human. And what she meant is, we're connecting because you're Jewish. And I went, oh God, no. Oh, don't do
Mhm.
that to me. I'm not going there. But then I realized, if I could look into the practices of shamanism, if I could look into the practices of
Mhm.
Qigong, why am I disqualifying that beautiful essence that my originality
Yeah.
has brought me? So, chanting and drumming ancient Hebrew chants, I could shake up a room. I've brought people to tears. And they were sitting around a drumming circle. This happened on my 60th birthday. It was my house. I made my party because this was after my sister passes. I'm going to live my truth. And I'm turning 60. I'm a big girl now. And at 60, I'm going to give myself total permission to be. And I learned this ancient Hebrew chant and I started chanting it. And this girl sitting in the circle of the drumming circle all of a sudden started to just cry and purge in tears. It was so beautiful. And she said, number one, I didn't know you could sing. Everybody could sing. It's the same as singing, just allow, and it's beautiful. And I decided to integrate parts of it into my practice. If I say a prayer within me that brings out the highest connection to all that is, the source of all creation, then I don't care what language
Mm-hmm.
it's in. And when I connect with some clients, one of the first things I ask them is, what is your
Yeah.
spiritual background? Because I want to speak to them in their language, that place inside them that connects with their higher self and with the all that is.
Yeah. Yes. 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 I do the same thing, so one of the things that I do is I take information from each person's spiritual beliefs and I integrate it into a whole picture in my mind of the universe and all of its beingness, right? And so, like you're saying, each of these beliefs, each of these, religions, each of these things, they're all talking about the same thing. They're all connecting to that higher knowingness, that higher connection, your reason why, and your like soul connection to that highest part of beingness. I guess I don't know, I'm not explaining it very well, but
No,
yeah.
you
And
are
so
beautifully. I think
yeah.
we're saying the
Yeah,
same thing.
and it's
Yeah.
so important to like work with each person at where they're at in the language that they communicate. And so that's what I'll do, if God is the terminology that you use, for me it's no different than whatever terminology that I use. It's the same beingness, right? So I'm perfectly okay with what terminology is best for you, and how can I speak and communicate with you that you understand truly like what I'm trying to say to you, that you fully get the
Yeah.
messages and integrate those
Right.
messages. So yeah.
And with that, what you're doing is you're touching the essence of who they are. And that essence of who they are holds all the healing power that they need for whatever
Yeah.
traumas they're dealing with.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. And just to get into your
Thank you.
clairvoyance a little bit, um, when you do your so one of the things that I teach is a term called your mind space, and it's essentially your inner awareness, right? Especially in the head space, your mind space. There's your body space and your mind space. I know it's so technical, and and so in my mind space, when I think about like, clairvoyance or clairaudience, or claircognizance, like these awarenesses are in my inner awareness. What when you experience your clairvoyance, what is that like in there for you? Like, what are you perceiving and how are you perceiving it, if you can even answer that?
Oh my God. Just before I answer that, I have to tell you that when my kids were younger, before I knew what was going on, I used to joke with them. Every Friday, I did a phenomenal cleaning of the house and then smudged everywhere. And as I'm doing the cleaning, I'd look around and I go, okay, everyone, get out of here now. I got to concentrate.
Clean in there.
And they went, Mom, I'm going out. Cleared the
I
house so I
love
could get
that.
it clean.
Yes.
Okay, what is it like for me? Oh, it's my happy place. Oh, it is my happy place because I could get out of
Hmm.
my own way. And I, like everybody else, has a very nice sized ego. I recognize it. I made friends with it. I haven't named her yet, but sometimes she looks like a
Nice.
Tasmanian devil, and sometimes she looks like a little barky dog. But it's my happy place. I get out of the way. The ego
Mm-hmm.
cannot be there. As soon as the ego steps in, the reading
Mm.
stops. So that place is, before this interview, I went for just a little barefooted walk on the land, and um, just just like saw the little fairies, or the vibrations of little fairies. And I went to the swimming pool, and I went, the structure of the water is different. Did you put something in the water? To my boyfriend, who's very scientific, and he went, you know, oh boy. And he's, and I went, no, when I'm looking at the water, even the way the waves are moving, there's something different about it. Like, what's going on in the water? And I just connected with that space. This is where I'm true. This is where I'm not playing
Mm-hmm.
anybody else's game. This is where ego is not ruling me, but I'm recognizing ego. And like, I'm saying hello to whatever's passing by. I don't even know it's passing by. And ego says, oh God, you're nuts. And I go, yeah, we're nuts, you know. So I trying to make friends with that part of consciousness. Um, and it's all very light place. It's a light place. It's a happy place. It's a
Mm-hmm.
safe place.
And when you like, so when you're doing a reading and you're seeing those things in there, how are you seeing that? Like for me, so like I did a video, on clairvoyance and aphantasia or hyperphantasia, which is like the ability to like see things like really strongly in your mind space versus things that you can't really visualize at all. And for me, I kind of like fall more towards the, it's not that I'm really necessarily seeing it in my mind space, but it's like my awareness, my like I'm cognitively aware. Like if I were to visualize, a juicy red apple, I'm aware that there's the idea of an apple in my mind, but am I literally like seeing it in my visual awareness inside when I close my eyes? No. So like when you,
Right. It's
yeah.
a
And
knowing.
so,
It's a knowing. I think both
mhm,
happens with me. I know when I start the reading, as I said, is I have a screen where I'm trying to put your energy
mhm,
onto the screen and reading
mhm,
it from there. And that would be looking at the images and then
mhm, mhm.
interpreting it. So sometimes during a reading, and I tell my clients before I start the reading, I might go quiet. I need to interpret what I'm
Yeah,
seeing,
well, it
sorry,
sounds
or
like you're
hearing.
also clairaudient,
Okay,
so
that was
that
a
slip
slip.
up lets you know that you're also
Yeah.
hearing.
Yeah. But a lot of times it's just, as you said, it's a knowing. It's a knowing. When I saw that little vision of you, it was
Mhm.
knowing.
Okay.
It was knowing. But after I said it, I kind
Mhm.
of saw it, not like I'm looking at you. It's another way of seeing. I can't even explain it. It's like I'm seeing it in my brain, but not through my
Yes.
eyes or third eye
Yeah,
or whatever
yeah,
you want
that's
to call
exactly how I see it too, and it's like you almost can't describe, like, how you're seeing yours because it's not like a seeing thing, it's like an awareness of that thing in there, but if you were to find a tangible location for it, it's like I can't find, like, where it is.
As we're talking about this is so clear to me that this is all part of the shift that everybody is talking about. Our consciousness for the longest time has been very solidified. We hear, we see, we taste, it is. Anything else, except for maybe the wind, is is not applicable because it's not concrete. And now we're reaching a stage where things are more real if they're not
Mm.
concrete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A brick could break or crumble and turn into something else. But when you are sensing and seeing, that is reality. To me, that is
Yeah. Well, it's
reality.
true. Like the brain can't tell the difference between what you're imagining and what you're living. So like if you have a dream of it, let's say, and you're living something, there's a point when your brain is having a hard time discerning between the two because in reality, you are living both experiences.
Exactly. And in a sense, the
Mhm.
dream is
Mhm.
real.
Absolutely.
And it does have a
Yeah.
ripple effect as well, just
Right,
like
it's
something
just the
concrete.
reality in a different reality, you know? There's a physical reality, there's a dream reality, they're all realities.
And as I'm listening to us talking, I have to congratulate us both because we are both crazy.
Yay, it's
Yay!
good, it's good. I love it.
We've surpassed the normal.
I know. And I love that we're going to this place. I love that we're changing how we view reality. We're changing like the constructs of what it means of what reality really is and validating that there's more to it than the physical experience, this cup or these things or whatever that the inner world, that there's something to that, and to really start paying attention to this. And that's kind of really what I wanted to do through all these videos too, is to help people to understand like how that inner world works and how like when you're visualizing something or you're getting that knowingness or whatever, like where is it? I want to bring in that kind of scientific like explorer of like let's explore tangibly like what these areas are like and bring this into our reality.
With that, I so want to do that. I so want to show people that this beautiful zone where everything is so magical, no matter what, is
Yeah.
concrete. It's part of your cell phone or your cup of water or your candle burning. It's all, as you said, scientifically bringing it forward so that we could help. And this is one of my biggest goals, to help people who, especially the younger generations, who are so stuck and see things so glimly because they cannot reach that other perspective, to help them get there. We're seeing an increase of suicides because these
Yeah.
people want to get there. So they believe that the only way to get there is to
Right.
get out. Where I believe that by us being born into this is the most powerful way of
Mhm.
getting
Mhm.
there,
Yeah.
not out there, but here. So if we could bring this into touching more and more people, especially the younger generation, to show them that this
Yeah.
is it. You could change it all. It's okay. And when they talk about they have a mental illness, they have a chemistry going on, please, please, please remember you are
Mhm.
the conductor of all the particles that are coming together, including whether or not you're releasing endorphins or an imbalance of hormones that's causing it. We could
Yeah.
change this. We could change it all. And all those people who are suffering now because they're not tapping into it, join us.
Yeah.
We're here, especially the elders. We so want to help you, and we so want to give this message that you're so important and richness is waiting for you. And the amount of pain, there's a Kabbalistic expression that the amount of darkness that you are perceiving is the amount of potential that you have to bring in that much
Mm,
light.
I love that. I love that. That is so beautiful. So if you were to give like one or even two, but one big piece of advice to everyone listening today, to about all of this, as well as like, essentially like trusting their own intuition and connectedness, to source energy and developing their abilities, um, what would you say to them?
If it's logical, it's probably not it. If you reach a place of illogic, a place that you can't really explain, you're getting there.
I love that.
You're on your way. If it's causing you intense misery, you're not there, but you might be on the
Yeah.
path
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
You might be on the road. You need to face something and you need to get over. And we're given so many bumps and valleys, hills and valleys to go through in life, because humanity, we don't know how to propel without
Hmm.
suffering. So we fall into suffering. No matter who you are, you're going to fall
Yeah.
into suffering. But if you know that that suffering is for the purpose of bringing you to a higher vibration of light, a higher wisdom, a higher knowing, then, you'll
Hmm.
cry through it
Yeah.
with
Yeah. And
joy.
it's true. It's true. There's so much in that suffering that brings that illumination out, and that greater understanding of ourselves, and that connection to source through that suffering. It's like the suffering, it's like the analogy of the coal into the diamond, and
Yeah.
all the suffering that it takes for that coal to go through, right, to turn into that beautiful diamond. And so, that's one of the things that I was telling you earlier, that I have those arguments with the universe, like, why does it have to be like this? Why do we have to have suffering in order to create that illumination? But it seems like that is one of the most powerful ways to create that. So
So we're looking at it now on personal levels, on community
yeah.
levels, and global levels right now. And this is our gift
Yeah.
for our shift. And interviews like these, what you're doing, your work. Thank you so much, because you are helping not put a band-aid over it, not put more lies out there, but to overstep all the pain from the lies and everything that we're experiencing right now as a global community. To say, hey, we're just on a path. It's okay. We're
Yeah, I
just on
love
a
that.
path.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
nothing matters
Right?
but
Nothing
love.
matters but love.
That's the thing that's
Yes.
going to get us
Yes, I love
through.
that. Well, I really love this interview with you, and help people to understand like how they can reach you, and what like services you offer fully. I know we talked a little bit about, the different aspects of the things that you do, but if you can kind of summarize that, so that if people are interested in working together with you, that they understand the nuances of this.
Okay, so there's a couple of practices that I have, professional hats that I might wear. Naturopathy consultations could be done over Zoom. It's not a problem. As we could see, distance is nothing. Um, so the naturopathy is open. I have clients everywhere. I haven't gotten one European so far, but through Canada and the United States, yes, it's open. Clairvoyant readings, again, can be done on Zoom. With the naturopathy, if someone really needs some hands-on healing and they live within an hour and a half proximity of me, I have my therapy table in my car at all times, and I hop around the island of Montreal and Laval and all over here to see them. And so, clairvoyant readings, any talks or retreats that I may do could be anywhere. I am more than free to travel, and I have done so to do retreats. And I will continue to aspire to go to more places, to do talks, to do small retreats, one-on-one retreats. One of my favorite experiences, which I called my internship, was a young woman with young children. No, this one was without children. Okay, she was passing. She was going through a very uh, big illness, and she really needed to connect before she left. That was a need, a desire. So I did a private retreat for just her. That was wonderful. The other one that I was thinking of with young children, that was one that I went to. She was my internship, where anything that I had studied that I hadn't really practiced yet because of the sensitivities, I allowed, and I went and I practiced it. And she was also one of the first people that I gave myself permission to whatever messages. I used to plant my feet on the ground before walking into her home and say a little prayer aligned with source, and then say, okay, whatever you need for her, just use me.
Mm.
I'm going in. And just went in, and then after I'd walk out and go, oh. So, anyways, down to that, Zoom. My email, blessedpath@gmail.com. They could reach me. My phone
And I'll
number
put
is
everything down
available. I'm
below
on
too. So
Facebook.
whatever things you want me to put, I'll put all of that down
Awesome.
below.
Yeah, yeah. Probably this fall, I will be having a retreat here in Quebec. So I will be talking about that soon. I'm just doing the finished touches of arranging it. Um, yeah, I am. Call my name, I'll hear you. I
Yay,
hope.
yay. Well, is there any last things that you wanted to say before we sign out?
Thank
Well,
you for
thank
the
you.
interview.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Thank anybody who watches this, and I'd love to hear any feedback from anybody. And for all those who are hearing that, we really need you. We really need the authentic you. And as I'm aging and watching younger people come in, I'm asking you, don't wait till you're 60 to give yourself total permission. As long as it doesn't hurt anybody or yourself, you're doing good. Please do it, and we thank you for doing you.
I love that. That is such a perfect note to close on. So thank you. Thank you so much, Susan. This was amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.